नितिन सर पीपीटी लगा दीजिए। पीपीटी एक मिनट। नहीं कर दूंगी, अब तो मैं एक्सपर्ट हूँ। टाइम पे फिनिश करने में और टाइम पे स्टार्ट करने में 1 मिनट है सर, कर दूंगी, डोंट वरी। Hello students, welcome to my live teaching learning session of MMPC 16. Today we will do block 2, unit 4 and unit 5. Both units will be covered in block 2 and the topic is international trade and WTO agreements. In today's session we will discuss about both these topics, international trade theories and WTO, World Trade Organization agreements. What is the meaning of international trade theory? You know that this paper name is International Trade Management and International Business Management. So what is the meaning of this international trade theory, which is also related with international business management? International trade theory is that exchange of goods and services across national borders. At present, all the economies are open economies and all the economies are engaged in international trade. They are doing exports and imports with rest of the world. Exports is the selling of goods and services across the border and import means buying goods and services from the abroad. So international trade belongs to the purchase and sale of goods and services across national borders. So international trade theories, here some different approaches are included in this international trade theories. Number one approach is classical approach. According to classical thinkers or economists, they have presented this classical trade theories. And in new trade theories, it explains the link among natural country advantage, government action, and industry characteristics that enable such exchange to happen. And classical trade theories explain national economic conditions, country advantages that enables such exchange to happen. And there are some implications for business, international business also. So international trade theory is related with classical trade theories and new trade theories. Next is international trade theories. Here international trade theories are the theories that explain international trade. It justifies why a company does international trade. There are two types of theories which included in this international trade theories. One is classical theories, second is modern theories. In classical theories, we include that mercantilism. Mercantilism theory states that countries should grow its reserves of gold and silver by encouraging exports and discouraging imports. It means each and every country wants to enter in this international trade. Why? To gain some advantages, to gain some benefits from doing this international trade. And we know that each and every country is not able to fulfill all its requirements or all its needs independently without doing international trade, because in some countries natural resources are abundant but capital resources are less, and in some countries human power or man resources are higher but capital and natural resources are lower. So each and every country is dependent upon other countries. That's why every country involved in this international trade. And international trade theories explain that what type of trade will give them benefits more and what type of trade will give them benefits less. So, first classical theory of international trade is mercantilism. This theory states that countries should grow its reserves of gold and silver by encouraging exports and discouraging imports. Second is absolute advantage theory. Absolute and comparative advantage theory of international trade was given by David Ricardo and Adam Smith. Adam Smith is the father of economics, and David Ricardo presented rent theory. So, this theory of international trade, like comparative advantage theory or absolute cost advantage theory focuses on the concept that countries should produce an item that it can manufacture more proficiently than other countries. Absolute advantage theory is based on this assumption that one country is able to produce, if two countries are involved in this international trade, and one country is able to produce one commodity in more quantity, and other country is able to produce other commodity in more quantity, then both countries can do international trade, can involve in this exports and imports, and can get benefit through this international trade. And comparative advantage theory says that business can take place even if one nation has an advantage in making both the items in a very good manner. If India is able to produce wheat and rice in large quantity and other country is not able to produce both commodities in more quantity, still they will engage in international trade and they will get benefit through international trade. Next international trade theory is Haxter-Ohlin theory. Haxter-Ohlin was the name of economist who propounded this theory, and given by the name of this international trade theory is Haxter-Ohlin theory. Haxter-Ohlin theory maintained that company should focus on producing that item which uses factors of production which is available in that particular country in abundant quantity. For example, in India, here labor is abundant, but capital is less. So we should use more labor intensive technology for the production of goods and services. And in USA, where capital is abundant and labor is less, America should produce those commodities which use more modern technologies, then they can reduce their cost of production and produce in more quantity. So Hexter-Ohlin theory mainly states that it give main emphasis on the use of that factor of production which is available in abundant quantity in that particular country. And Leontief paradox is based on the observation that US was importing more of capital intensive product and was exporting more labor intensive products. This is a paradox. Here, Hexter-Ohlin theory is saying that the country in which labor is abundant should use labor-intensive technology, and where capital is abundant should use capital-intensive technology. But Leontief paradox is against this Hexter-Ohlin theory. Totally reverse condition is showing that US is importing more capital-intensive product, But we know that in America, capital intensive technology is available in abundant quantity. Capital is abundant. Then why America is importing more capital intensive products, and why America is exporting more labor intensive product? But we know that in America or US, labor is less and capital is more. So Leontief paradox is based on the observation that US was importing more of capital intensive products and was exporting more of labor intensive products. These are based on classical theories. Number one is mercantilism, second is comparative cost advantage theory, third is Hexter-Ohlin theory, and next is Leontief paradox. Now, next is modern theories. In modern theories, one is country similarity theory. This country similarity theory states that people in countries that are in the same level of development have similar preferences. Here, this theory assumes that people in countries who have the same level of development, they have similar preferences or similar level of satisfaction. Next is product life cycle theory. Product life cycle theory says that there are three stages in each and every product in their life cycle. One is new product, second is maturing product, third is standardized product. So product life cycle theory states that each and every product, there are three stages in their life cycle. One is new product, when product is introduced or launched in a market. Maturing product, when it is fully mature or finished. And standardized product, when it is based on some specific quality, that is standardized product. Next is global strategic rivalry theory. This theory focuses on how companies can get competitive advantage when competing against global firms in same industry. So it mainly focuses how a company can get competitive advantage. We know that at present today's world is competitive world, and at present competition act is going on. India has adopted competition act in 2002 and abolished MRTP act of 1969, in which year 1991 new economic policy. So global strategic rivalry theory mainly focuses on the uh, this thing that how companies can get advantages through competition, and how they can compete against global firms in the same industry. And next is Porter's national competitive advantage theory. This theory says that competitiveness business segment depends on innovative items and process, as well as companies innovate new ideas, new products, and launch new things in the market, then how they can get more advantages than other. So Porter's national competitive advantage theory says that competitiveness business segment mainly depends on innovative or new ideas, new thoughts, new research and innovations and processes, etc. So these are the different theories which is related with international trade, and it can be broadly classified into two parts. One is classical theories and second is modern theories. Now next is evolution of trade theories. How these trade theories evolved, and what are the different trade theories included in international trade system. Now, first is mercantilism theory, second is absolute advantage theory presented by classical economists David Ricardo and Adam Smith. Third is comparative cost advantage theory, also propounded by David Ricardo. and Adam Smith. Next is factor proportion theory. Factor proportion trade theory is known as Hexter-Ohlin theory. Next is international product cycle, which is the modern international trade theory. Next is new trade theory and national competitive advantage theory. These three theories, international product cycle, new trade theory, national competitive advantage, is based on modern international trade theories. And mercantilism, absolute advantage, comparative cost advantage, and factor proportion trade based on classical international trade theories. Next is, what is the meaning of mercantilism trade theory? This is the first classical international trade theory, mercantilism. Mercantilism is a trade theory holding that a country's wealth is measured by its holding of treasure, which usually means its gold. Mercantilist theory proposed that a country should try to achieve a favorable balance of trade, means exports always remains more than its imports, to receive an influx of gold. Because when we do exports, and then we will get in return gold. If we import goods and services from abroad, then we must have to pay gold in abroad. So, mercantilist theory always proposed that a country should try to achieve favorable balance of trade in which exports must be greater than imports to receive an influx of gold. To export more than they imported, government restricted imports and subsidized exports and subsidized production that could otherwise not compete in domestic or export market. So this is the theory of mercantilism, international trade theory, which is mainly based on the trade held in between of different countries, and what type of currency we are exchanging by doing exports and imports. We are using standardized currency like gold for exports and imports, and each and every country wants to achieve favorable or favorable balance of trade in which export must be greater than imports, so that gold, each and every country can receive more and pay less. Next is how mercantilism work. This mercantilism theory, how it works. For example, here mother country is known as parent country. Here parent country can import raw material from another country or colony A, imports raw material at lower price and exports finished goods at higher price. Then balance of trade will be more favorable. If we purchase raw material from abroad and exports finished goods to the abroad, then we will get higher return and balance of trade will be more favorable. Next is parent country will collect gold, silver, and other metallic currencies by doing international trade. And in colony B, if we export finished goods at higher price and same as import raw material at lower price from colony B. It means this mercantilism theory mainly deals with doing a favorable balance of trade. Always, this theory based on this assumption that we should import less and we should export more. Then we can achieve higher advantages from this international trade. If we export finished goods at higher price and if we import raw material at lower price, then we can get more advantages by doing this international trade. So parent country want to accumulate more wealth, more gold, and want to improve its power by importing less and exporting more. Either it may be country A, they are doing with the business in colony A or colony B. Always mother country or parent country is importing always raw material from colony A and colony B at lower price and selling finished goods to colony A and colony B at higher price, so that mother country can collect more gold, silver and other metal currencies to accumulate wealth and grows power. So this type of system, this mercantilism work. Next is comparative advantage theory. This comparative advantage theory also proposes specialization through free trade, because it says that trade can increase total global output even if one country has an absolute advantage in the production of all products. The theory of comparative cost advantage point out that trade between two countries can be profitable for all, even if one the country can produce every commodity more in more quantity at lower price. As long as there are minor relative differences in the efficiency of producing a commodity, even a poor country can have a comparative advantage in producing it. This comparative cost advantage theory was propounded by David Ricardo in 1817. This is the very famous international trade theory, and this is also known as classical trade theory, which is based on this assumption that if one country is able to produce both the commodities in larger quantity and other country is not able to produce both the commodities in large quantity, still they will enter into this international trade and they will also get benefit or advantages through doing this international trade. So comparative cost advantage theory is based on that if we compare the cost of production with in between of two countries, it will be profitable for all, even if the one country can produce every commodity more cheaply. For example, we assume that here labor cost is the main production cost. If we are using only labor cost of production, and if we assume that the trade is held in between of only two countries, one is country A and one other is country B, and for example, we assume that we are doing international trade in between of two countries and we are trading only two commodities like commodity X and commodity Y. It means this international trade theory, which is presented by Ricardo, is based on 2 into 2 model. What is 2 into 2 model? Here 2, we have taken only two countries. It means the trade is going on in between of two countries. And into 2 means we are taking only two commodities like commodity X and commodity Y. So this is 2 into 2 model in which only two goods are trading and only trade is held in between of two countries like A and B. Now commodity X and commodity Y are the two commodities or goods, and labor is the main producing cost of production. So labor cost per unit of commodity in man hours. For example, in a country, commodity X commodity X can be produced by using labor cost 16 units and commodity Y can be produced in 12 units. So in this table, it is clear that B country is able to produce both the commodities in larger quantity. Uh, in B country, commodity X production is maximum 16 and B Y product is also higher 12. But in A country, commodity X is 12 and commodity Y is 10. But in this case, comparative cost advantage theory states that if one country is able to produce both the commodities more quantity and other country is able to produce both the commodities in less quantity, still they will enter into this international trade theory and they will enter in international trade business and they will exports and imports the goods and services and they will get more advantages by doing this international trade. Here, B country is able to produce commodity X in 16. So B country will produce more 16 units and A country will produce more of commodity Y and both will trade these X and Y commodity to each other and they will get advantages from this international trade. Now next is theory of absolute advantage. Theory of absolute advantage presented by Adam Smith. Adam Smith is the father of economics who gave first definition of economics in 1776 and defined that economics is a science of wealth. And Adam Smith argued that the market forces, not government control, should determine the direction, volume, and composition of international trade. So, market forces, if government does not interfere in any economic activity if government does not interfere in any uh, market government do not control over the market, then companies or market forces like demand and supply should determine the direction, volume, and composition of international trade. And here we assume that under free trade regime, unregulated trade, each nation should specialize in producing those goods it could produce most efficiently for which it had an absolute advantage, either natural or acquired. Some of these goods would be exported to pay for imports of goods that could be produced more efficiently elsewhere. So, this theory of absolute advantage mainly state that if one country is able to produce one commodity in larger quantity and other commodity can be produced by other country in a larger quantity, then both countries will enter into this international trade business and they will do exports and imports with other nation and get advantages through international trade. Here only one country is able to produce one commodity in larger quantity. Then absolute cost advantage theory will be applicable. But in comparative cost advantage theory, we assume that one country is able to produce both the commodities in larger quantity and other will be less, but still they will do international trade and get advantages from the international trade. Now, what is the example of this absolute cost advantage theory? We consider the two countries, two products which can be produced with 2 units of input by each with perfect competition and no transportation cost. This theory of international trade is based on the assumption of 2 into 2 model and it is based on that perfect competition exists in the market. There is no transportation cost exist. Only two countries and two products are producing by two countries. For example, here commodity are two. One is tons of soya beans and other is bolts of cloth. And two countries are USA and China. Here USA is producing tons of soybean 3 and China is producing this tons of soybean in 1 unit. And bolt of cloth is in USA 2 and in China 4. To see this table, it is clear that USA is able to produce more tons of soybean. Only in one commodity, USA is specialized to produce this commodity in more quantity. And China can produce bolts of cloth in larger quantity, like four. Here, three, this three is higher in case of USA economy. It means USA will specialize in the production of tons of soybean, and China will be specialized in the production of bolts of cloth, because China is producing 4 unit, which is higher than USA. And tons of soybean, US is producing 3 and China is producing only 1. So USA is more able to produce tons of soybean. So in this case, USA will specialize in the production of tons of soybean, and China will specialize in the production of bolts of cloth, and both will enter into this international trade theory, and both will export. USA will export this tons of soybean and import from China bolt of cloth, and China will import tons of soybean from USA and export bolts of cloth to the USA, and both will take advantages through this international trade. So this is the theory of absolute cost advantage. Now next is the Hexter-Ohlin theory. Hexter-Ohlin theory, according to this theory, one condition for trade is that country differ with respect to the availability of the factors of production. We know that factors of productions are very necessary for the production of goods and services. And factors of productions, in which we include four main factors like land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. And these factors of productions are not equally distributed or not equally available in each and every country. In some countries, labor is abundant, and in some other countries, capital is abundant. So, factor endowment is different in different nations. So, how we can do international trade when factors are available in different quantities in different countries? So this Hexter-Ohlin theory mainly based on factor endowment theory, and it's mainly based on factor of production or availability of factors of production. Next is the Hexter-Ohlin. In short form, we can write this Hexter-Ohlin. Hexter is denoted by H and Ohlin is denoted by O. Hexter and Ohlin was the great economist who propounded this international trade theory, which is also based on classical trade theory. It states that countries tend to export goods whose production is intensive in factors with which they are abundantly endowed. It means a country can produce that commodity in larger quantity. For that commodity's production, the factor is available in that countries in more quantity. And gain from trade, trade leads to convergence of relative prices, which in turn has strong effect on the relative earning of the factors of production. What is the meaning of a relative? Relative means comparatively study. There are two types of theories like absolute and relative. In absolute terms, we are not considered the comparison between different things. If we say that a person is poor because his income is lower, that is the concept of absolute poverty. But if we compare that why Indian economy is poor than USA, if we are comparing the status of Indian economy with the rest of the world, that is called concept of relative poverty. So, relative concept means we can compare that trade leads to convergence of relative prices. We can compare the price of our country and other countries, which in turn has strong effect on the relative earnings of the factors of production. Next is factor proportion theory. Their factor proportion theory or factor endowment theory is also known as Hexter-Ohlin theory. It is explained by Eli Hexter and Bertil Ohlin, and also called the Hexter-Ohlin HO theory. A country's comparative advantage is based on its endowment or factors of production. Endowment means factors of production, or what factor of production is abundant in which country. If we assume that in India labor is abundantly available in India, and capital is abundantly available in USA. So to see the factor endowment, then we can engage in international trade, and after that we can get more benefits by doing this international trade according to Hexter-Ohlin theory. Hexter-Ohlin model. What are the components of Hexter-Ohlin model? There are four components of Hexter-Ohlin model. One is factor price equalization theorem. Here we can equalize the factor prices like labor prices, wages, and capital prices, rent, where rent and wages are equal, then factor price equalization theorem will be applicable. Same as Stopler-Samuelson theorem is also based on international trade theory, and Rybczynski theorem is also based on international trade theory, and Hexter-Ohlin, which is based on factor endowment. So there are four components of Hexter-Ohlin model. One is factor price equalization theorem. Second is Stopler-Samuelson theorem. Third is Rybczynski theorem, and fourth is Hexter-Ohlin trade theorem. Next is, what are the assumptions of Hexter-Ohlin model? There are different assumptions. We assume that these assumptions are assumed by Hexter-Ohlin model. Number one is this theory is based on two-dimensional model. Two-dimensional means two nations. Here trade is held in between of only two nations. One is nation 1 and other is nation 2. And two commodities, like one commodity is X and other commodity is Y. And the two factors of production, like one is labor and other is capital. So both nations use the same technology in production. It means both nations can use the same technology in production. Next is commodity X is labor intensive and commodity Y is capital intensive in both nations. Both commodities are produced under constant returns to scale in both nations. What is constant returns to scale? In which we use same ratio of input and get same ratio of output. If we are using 10% of input and getting 10% of output, that is called constant returns to scale. So we assume that both commodities are produced under the constant returns to scale in both nations. And the next assumption is there is incomplete specialization in production in both nations. It means there is no need to assume that there is a complete specialization, because complete specialization is not possible. No one is perfect in this world. So we can't say that one person is very perfect than other, or one country is perfectly specialized in the production of one commodity, which is assumed by Adam Smith or David Ricardo. Hexter-Ohlin theory is not based on this assumption that there is a complete specialization is possible. This theory assumed that there must be incomplete specialization exist in the production of commodities in both the nations. So these are the assumptions of Hexter-Ohlin model. Now next is Hexter-Ohlin theorem. The definition of this theorem is a nation will export the commodity whose production requires the intensive use of nation's relatively abundant and cheap factors, and import the commodity whose production requires expensive or intensive use of the nation's relatively scarce and expensive factors of production. Or the relatively labor-rich nations export the relatively labor-intensive products and import the capital-intensive commodities from other countries. This means that nation 1 export X product because X is the labor intensive commodity and L is relatively because L is relatively more abundant and cheaper in nation 1. That's why nation 1 will export more labor intensive product and nation 2 will export more capital intensive product because that country, if we assume that, is more able to produce capital intensive technologies and capital intensive product because capital is abundant in that country. So in this way both countries can engage in international trade and they can get more benefits by doing this international trade. Now, what is the difference between Ricardian theory and Hexter-Ohlin theory? Ricardian theory is expressed in terms of labor theory of value, but Hexter-Ohlin theory is expressed in terms of price theory or money theory. Ricardian theory take into account two countries, two commodities, and one factor. One means labor is the main producing factor of production under Ricardian theory. But in Hexter-Ohlin theory, it is based on 2 into 2 into 2 model. 2 means two commodities, two countries, and two products. Two factors, two products, and two countries. But in Ricardian theory, two countries, two products, but one factor, which is labor. So Ricardian theory is expressed in terms of labor theory of value. And Hexter-Ohlin theory is takes into account 2 into 2 into 2 and it is expressed in terms of money or price. In Ricardian theory, labor is the responsible factor for comparative advantage. But in Hexter-Ohlin theory, factor abundance is the responsible factor. Factor abundant means if any country labor is abundant, that country will produce more labor intensive product and export to the other country. And if a country is able to produce more capital intensive product with the help of capital abundancy, then that country will export more capital products, capital intensive product, and import labor intensive products. In Ricardian theory, it neglects space element. It is one market theory. But Hexter-Ohlin theory is a multi-market theory. Ricardian theory, according to this, difference in labor efficiency is taken into account because each and every labor is not equally efficient to produce all the goods in same quantity. But in Hexter-Ohlin theory, there is a difference in factor supply is taken into account. Here factor supply is main thing and base of Hexter-Ohlin theory, but in Ricardian theory, labor efficiency taken into account. Next is sixth point is in Ricardian theory, international trade requires a separate theory for explanation, but Hexter-Ohlin theory in this international trade is a special case or extension of interregional trade. And in Ricardian theory, seventh point is it tried to demonstrate the gains from trade. And Hexter-Ohlin theory tried to explain the basis of trade. Ricardian theory demonstrate the gains from trade, how much gain a country will get after doing international trade. And Hexter-Ohlin theory explain the basis of trade. What are the main basis of trade? Why international trade exists? What are the basis? What are the reason behind this? That is the reason of factor endowment and the price of factor endowments. And factor prices depend upon availability of that factor. If labor is abundant, labor will be cheap. If capital is abundant, capital will be cheap. And producer always want to produce more goods at lower price. And producer's aim is to minimize the cost of production and maximize the profit. So Hexter-Ohlin theory is based on factor endowment. It is based on multi-market theory, and here factor supply is taken into account. It is based on 2 into 2 into 2 model, and it is generally explain the basis of trade. But Ricardian theory, which mainly assume that labor is the main producing factor, so labor cost is considered while doing international trade, and it neglects the space element. It is one market theory, not multi-market theory, and it taken that labor efficiency is taken into account, and this theory explain requires a separate theory for explanation, and it only administrate or demonstrate the gains from trade. Now, next theory is theory of FDI. This theory of FDI, what is the full form of FDI? FDI is the foreign direct investment. The patron of FDI or FDI patron firms in the same industry, for example, tends to undertake FDI at around the same time and towards certain location. Theories that explain that pattern that we observe in FDI flows. One is strategic behavior. One theory is based on the idea that foreign direct investment is based on strategic rivalry between firms. It's a strategic which exists in rivalry firms, that how much FDI they will bring and how much they invest their money in rest of the world. Definition and types of FDI. What is the meaning of FDI? FDI is the foreign direct investment when a firm invests directly in production or other facilities over which it has effective control in a foreign country. That is called foreign direct investment. And it has various types, but in case of manufacturing FDI, it requires the establishment of production facilities, and service FDI requires building services. It facilitates or an investment foothold by capital contribution or building offices facilities. So types of FDI are generally these two types. In manufacturing sector, FDI is permitted and FDI is increasing at present because manufacturing sector needs more capital for the production of goods and services, same as service sector in which transportation, communication, banking, insurance, and shipping corporation and information technology, all these things needs more money to develop. So service FDI requires building services facilities or an investment foothold by capital contribution or building office facilities. Next is types of FDI in the OLI. The typology of FDI was developed by J. Behrman to explain the different objectives of FDI. What are the main objectives behind a foreign direct investment? One is resource seeking FDI. If we have lack of resources, then we can invite foreign direct investment from abroad and compensate and to fill the gap in between of saving and investment in our country. Next is market seeking FDI. Market seeking FDI generally promote the market structure of the less developed countries and to promote trade and businesses in developing countries. And third is efficiency seeking FDI, which increase the efficiency of the underdeveloped countries, and global sourcing FDI, which provide more foreign direct investment for increasing the efficiency level of the underdeveloped or backward regions. And next is strategic asset capabilities seeking FDI. This strategic asset or capability seeking FDI generally promote the strategy of the different companies to make more benefit, to create more benefit from doing businesses. So these are the types of FDI in OLI. Here OLI means location. L refers to location. There are theories of foreign direct investment. There are four types of theories. One is products life cycle. Next is athletic paradigm. Next is market power. Next is market imperfection. So these are the four types of theories of foreign direct investment. And here some theories like a Hexter-Ohlin model. Hexter-Ohlin model is based on higher return on investment, lower labor cost, and exchange risk. Market imperfection, which is the theory of foreign direct investment, here ownership benefit of differentiation, economies of scale, and government incentives can increase the benefit from doing trade. Different products. If a company is producing differentiated product and selling them into the market, then a firm can get more advantages. And market imperfection says that there is a imperfect, there is some competitive edge following rise and increased competition at home. And internationalization, it explains the market failure, inefficiencies, know-how market failures, and give benefit of owing productive management and skills. And what is OLI? O means ownership, L means location, and I means internationalization. OLI is a important foreign direct investment theory which is based on the advantages of location in protected market, favorable tax system, low production and transportation cost, and lower risk. And it will give more advantages of internationalization, cutting transaction cost, lowering risk of copying technology, and quality control. And new trade theory, which is based on market size, transportation cost, barriers to entry, and factor endowment. An institutional approach is based on political variables in which financial and economic incentive, tariffs, and tax rates are the main determinant factors. So, this is the overview of all these international trade theories in a single chart. Next is product life cycle model. This product life cycle model in this export performance of the mature involving innovating country is better than others. Product life cycle has three stages. One is new product, second is maturity, and third stage is when we sell that commodity in the market. So export performance of the mature innovating country is better than others. Technology is better in the mature countries as product diffuses, production tends to move the technology intensive to labor intensive. Countries that were innovators can fall from that place. And trade may increase in later stage of product maturity as cost and price sorry decreases, and production is getting economies of scale. In that case, economy will rise. Now, what is WTO? Uh, These all theories which we have discussed that is based on international trade theories. Now the next topic is what is WTO? WTO is the World Trade Organization. It's the only global international organization dealing with the rules of trade between nations. At its heart are the WTO agreement negotiated and signed by the bulk of the world trading nations and ratified in their parliaments. The goal is to help the producers of goods and services, exporters and importers conduct their business. The World Trade Organization, the brief history of this WTO. You know that in 1944, first of all, GATT was established. GATT is General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs, which was established in 1944. The GATT was established along with the Bretton Woods system, twins of IMF and World Bank. WTO was established in 1995. The agenda of the WTO is to help global economy recover from the World War II and to support global development by promoting free trade and free market and to champion the cause of free trade by allowing seamless movement of goods and services across international boundaries. And who are the member countries? GATT was signed in Geneva initially by 23 countries, and India was a founder member of GATT, and the membership increased in the coming years. And by the time of Uruguay round in 1986 and was concluded at Marrakesh 1995, there were 123 members. And at present, Marrakesh round 1995 led to creation of the WTO. And at present, near about 160 or above 160 countries are the member countries of WTO. WTO agreements and overview. WTO sets some agreements while doing international trade, like multilateral trade agreements, multilateral agreements trade in goods, GATS, GATS. This GATS means General Agreement on Trade and Services, and TRIPS means Trade Related Intellectual Property Rights. IP means rights. IP is intellectual property rights. So TRIPS is Trade Related Intellectual Property Rights Agreement. Multilateral agreements are like agreements on textile and clothing, agreements on subsidies, and all these agreements are set by WTO. Now, 164 states and custom territories, near about 98% of the world trade is controlled by WTO, and WTO is the packages of agreements, that is a set of international rules in the field of trade and protection of intellectual property rights, and on which the basis of business of the whole world proceed. It is the platform. It provides us platform for multilateral negotiations and the development of international trade rules, including the reduction of trade barriers. It settles the dispute which exists while doing international trade. So dispute settlement system of the WTO mainly settle all the disputes which held in between of different countries while they are engaged in international trade businesses. And source of information, WTO ensures transparency in the application of trade policy measures by all members. Next is basic principles of WTO. What are the basic principles on which WTO works? WTO works on the principle of non-discriminatory principle, means WTO will not with not follow the discrimination policy. WTO only follow non-discriminatory policy, non-discriminatory principle in which each and every country will be treated equally without any discrimination, without any bias. And principle of tariff concession, tariff is import duty, and import duty concession can be uh, can be permitted by, and principle of trade protection. WTO is based on the free trade or protective trade policy, and principle of trade facilities, transparency, and competition. So these are the main principles of WTO. Next is functions of WTO. You know that WTO play very important role at present in all over the world because it sets some rules and regulations of international trade. It facilitates the implementation, administration, and operation of trade agreements to provide a forum for further negotiations among member countries. It settles the difference and disputes among its member countries to carry out periodic reviews of the trade policies of its member countries, to assist developing countries in trade policy regime or issues through technical assistance and training programs, and to cooperate with other international organizations. These are the main functions of WTO. Now, what is the difference between GATT and WTO? You know that GATT is a General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs, and WTO is the World Trade Organization. GATT was established in 1944, WTO was established in 1995. GATT is an agreement, WTO is an organization. GATT is related with the goods, and WTO is concerned with goods, services, and intellectual property. It was established in 1st Jan 1948, and it was established in 1st Jan 1995. And GATT has weak and slow dispute settlement mechanism, but WTO has strong dispute settlement mechanism. GATT was signed by 23 member countries, and WTO was signed by 164 countries, and it was provisional, and it is WTO is permanent, and the member nations who signed this participating parties are called agreement, are known as contracting member nation parties. Now WTO and India is one of the founder member of WTO. India has most of our foreign trade with those countries that are member of WTO. Will India gain or lose by becoming a member of WTO has been a great issue of debate over the years. What are the advantages of WTO for India? India, being a member of WTO, India has improved their trade relations with the 152 nations. Removing trade, tariffs, and non tariffs barriers has opened various new markets for India, and India's trade in goods and services is increasing at a faster rate. Now we can conclude from the today's session of different international trade theories and WTO. Their trade improves the relative welfare of the factors of production that are used intensively in the exported products. There are different types of theories like Hexter-Rolling theory, foreign direct investment theories, classical trade theories, which are based on international trade. And we have studied about WTO and the role of WTO in India. Now, next topic we will discuss in next session. Thank you.